get bogged down in a lot of details that are very, very significant, and we need to get into them. But I know when I go back to Oklahoma and other places, the first question always is, why is it we're not as successful as we should in getting NATO to come up to, I noticed this morning in the early bird, and I think this came out of today's New York Times, it makes an issue of the fact that France will send 150 paramilitary police officers to Afghanistan as a part of it. It goes on, and then some of these other NATO countries that are talking about this as if that's a great contribution. I wonder if there's anything, well, first of all, anything further that you haven't already stated in terms of what we might do on this side of the dais, or what you might do to encourage more of an involvement of NATO over there?
Senator, I would just let you know, we spent a lot of time in the development of the strategy consulting with allies to try to create a sense of ownership on their part. And one of the things we've done is to broaden the nature of our requests, not only for military troops and capabilities where they can provide them, but to things like police trainers, where a number of our European allies have national police forces, gendarmerie, carabinieri, et cetera, who are actually quite good at police training. We don't have a national police force. That's not an area of particular strength for us. So we're asking them to step up on trainers for the Army, trainers for the police, contributions to the ANA Trust Fund, the Law and Order Trust Fund, sending civilian advisors, civilian assistants, and so forth. So we've tried to broaden the aperture with the expectation that everyone will step up in some meaningful way to support a comprehensive approach.
Any other thoughts?
Senator, as part of the consultation phase of this, as the AFPAC strategy review was launched, I went to the Munich Security Conference, to NATO headquarters, EU, addressed all the EU delegates, and also went to London, Brussels, and Paris and talked with each of them. There have been, and there will be, some more contributions made. We'll see what happens at the summit in the coming days.
Good.
There's some that still may be forthcoming that people are reticent to talk about right now. But I think, Secretary, I would stand very much with what Secretary Gates has noted about NATO contributions and his concerns about NATO being almost also a two-tier alliance in which some will fight and others may not. So this is a challenge for the alliance, without question.
Well, thank you, and I agree with all that. And Madam Secretary, I appreciate your phrase, create a sense of ownership. That seems to be what needs to be done. Each one of you, General Petraeus, you mentioned the CERP program, and of course, Secretary Flournoy mentioned the 1206, and of course, I always try to get on the record on these. Just briefly, the value of the IMET program, the CERP program, the CCIF program, and in your case, Admiral Olson, the 1208 program. Do you have any comments to make on those programs?
With respect to CERP, again, I think it's of enormous importance. Actually, I would support very strongly 1206, 1207, and 1208. Again, I don't want to get ahead of a budget submission. And with the next one, there is something out there that you may have heard about. We've discussed with the chairman and Senator McCain, called the Pakistani Counterinsurgency Capability Fund. This will be coming along with this package. It is something that we believe in CENTCOM is of enormous importance to be able to target assistance that will help them develop the capabilities for those who are truly conducting counterinsurgency operations.
Good.
Sir, I would just echo that. I mean, these tools are generally very important throughout the AOR, and globally in many cases, but they are absolutely critical to the success of the strategy. If we don't back up the troops we're deploying with these additional authorities and funding streams, we can't reach our goals. They're absolutely critical to success of the strategy.
I'd say, and Admiral Olson, you would agree with that, with 1208?
Absolutely, sir. I have more responsibility for 1208, but the Special Operations Forces are also customers of 1206, IMED, and some others. And I think we can point to many examples of progress that was enabled by those programs.
Okay, seeing Senator Ben Nelson here, I had occasion to talk to some of the Nebraska Guard on what they're doing up on the Pakistani border, and they're up there now, and we had an opportunity to talk to them. and the value of that program of crop substitution and this type of thing, working with them. It happens that Oklahoma Guard will be going up to relieve them, I think in October sometime. Would you make any comments about that program?
I can't say enough about that program. Actually, this is a case where the National Guard, individual states have pulled together agriculture teams. These are individuals, of course, that are serving in the National Guard, but either are farmers or farm experts, agriculture experts. They've even been doing the rotation system themselves. Frankly, the more of those that we could get, the better at this stage as we expand the areas in which our forces are operating, and we've conveyed that.
They seem to be getting good results.
They get very good results. They have all the attributes of soldiers in terms of being able to secure themselves, communicate, move, shoot, communicate, and yet they're also experts in agriculture.
Okay, I was going to, thank you very much. I was going to get into this, and there's not time, but just very briefly on the fact that I didn't learn till this morning that the solution has come from the Supreme Court over there in terms of Karzai's term ending in May, and then, of course, the elections in August. But I guess that's resolved now by the Supreme Court. Is my understanding that he will remain there during this time frame?
Sir, we hope so, but we've thought at many points that this was resolved before. So, but we'll hope that this interim arrangement will stick. I mean, our interest is having secure, free, fair elections. We're not backing any one candidate. We just want to make sure a peaceful and legitimate process moves forward.
Okay. Well, in my time's up. But lastly, Admiral Olson, you mentioned just a few minutes ago that you represented 2% of the budget. I have read your background and some of the great heroic things that happen in the special ops, and I would just have to ask you, this is the right forum to get a response. Do you think that 2% is adequate?
So I obviously don't want to get ahead of the budget discussions that are taking place now, but I do want to fully credit the investment that the services each make in special operations capability.
Yes.
We depend heavily on them, and each of the services carves out a portion of their budget to pile on top of that 2% that's peculiar to the special operations needs.
Yes. Well, you're doing great work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Inhofe. Senator Bill Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Admiral, the MRAP vehicle is not necessarily well adapted to the terrain in Afghanistan.